We formalize the argument. The next step is to symbolize. Symbolization. Actually, I screwed up. When you formalize it, I should have written line 1 differently, right? Made a mistake. Line 1 should have said, when it was formalized, for every X, if X is a communist, then X advocates for the elimination of property, of private property. But let's symbolize it. Nobody's perfect. Let's see. So let's symbolize line 1. And I think it should look like this. Let me know if you agree. For every X. And of course, it's a premise, right? If X is a communist, right? Then X advocates for the elimination of private property. Communists don't believe in private property. Everything has to be shared. Sharing and caring. And that's an assumption. It's a universal quantification. We're fine with this, right? We're okay with this symbolization? Yeah? I know at least 10 of you are understanding what I'm doing. That's a high number. Okay, line 2, Hitler was a communist. How do you think we should symbolize this? Excuse me. How should we symbolize? AF. Natalia, what are you talking about? Perfect, Matthew. Perfect. The C has to be tilted, has to be in italics, but maybe Blackboard doesn't let you do that. Okie doke. So let's do this now. Oh, you can do it. Okay. You are the man. Matthew's the man. You know that, right? People know that. Did you guys know that? Okay. That's how you do it. CH. He wouldn't like to see his last name in lowercase, would he? Be upset. Too bad. Okay. Japan and Italy shared Germany's political views. I'm just going to use a J. Okay, Denise, it's okay. For line 3, I'm just going to use a J. I hate Blackwater. There we go. Let's be consistent. Let's keep using the yeah, Germany, Japan, and Italy were the enemy. There were others too that were joined to the Axis, but they were the three main ones, right? Number 4, if Hitler was an advocate for the elimination of private property, so we know 4 is going to have an arrow. We know 4 is going to have an arrow somewhere. Because it says if then, right? Yeah. How do we symbolize Hitler was an advocate for the elimination of private property? Very good, Matthew. Yeah, PH. Very good. So we know we're going to start, let's see. We're going to start the sentence here with PH. See, logic allows you to remove so much. This is going to be PH, right? Yes, Kaylin. Was it Kaylin, right? Oh, okay. No problem. I just got a text. They're looking for men who want to participate in an experiment because they suffer from frequent urination. Okay. Well, thank you. How do we symbolize the and here? Anyone? Ampersand, yeah. And how do we symbolize Japan and Italy share Germany's political views? I'll give you a clue. We did it already. How did we do it? J. So we know that line 4 is going to start with uppercase P in italics, lowercase h, the ampersand, and then a J. Right. And we have the then here. We're going to use an arrow. The Axis powers were communist. I'll just use an X. Uppercase X. So that's what it will look like. If H is a P and J, then X. Let's do it. Let me know if you want a kitten. If anyone wants a kitten, free of charge and beautiful, I'll show you pictures. It's all yours. Only 8 weeks old. Okay. This. Thanks, Megan. I'll show you the pictures in a while. They're beautiful. So, right. Free of charge. Kittens free of charge. Girl or a boy? I don't know. They're only 7 weeks old. I haven't checked. So that's how we do line 4, right? And we're going to use parentheses. Therefore, the Axis powers were communist. What's that going to look like? What's the conclusion going to look like when it's symbolized? Anyone? Very good, Matthew. With the 3 dots and everything. Okay, that is the argument symbolized. Again, if you were able to symbolize one line, yeah, I know, right? Megan is crazy. He did that and he got the italics. He's good with the computer. Excuse me. Oh, okay. He's fast at it, huh? So, if you were able to symbolize one line, 2, and that's it, that's fine. As a matter of fact, if you weren't able to symbolize, but now you see what's going on, you can see how this tracks the original, that's fine too. The next step is to prove. You go from the rough draft, from the rough English, to a formalization, to a symbolization, then to the proof. What's the first thing we do? Anyone? At this stage, what's next? Well, that's the very, very first thing. I misspoke. Right, we're gonna try to prove. So now that we're gonna try to prove, what are we gonna do? Very good, Laura. Yeah, as I said, whenever you have a universal quantification, try to get rid of it. Because as it is, it's useless. I'm gonna write number 5. What am I gonna write for number 5, Laura? What am I gonna write for number 5? If we're trying to get rid of the quantification, I'm going to instantiate. No, that's the quantification. It's still got the x's in it. Good, Laura. CH, then PH. CH, then PH. Right, Gabriela. line 1 says, take any damn communist, whoever he or she happens to be, he or she does not believe in private property. Therefore, if Hitler was a communist, Hitler did not believe in private property. Right, 6 is pH. And we get it from 5 and 2. Notice ponens, right? You're not saying where they're coming from, Gabriela. You have to also say where they're coming from. It's just as important. And 7, right? 7 is going to be pH and J. Very good. And how do we get to the conclusion?
Hello?
How do we get to X?
Yes, who's
The
this?
conclusion.
Hi, good afternoon, Miss Julia. How are you?
Good, you?
Miss Julia,
Very good, Denise. 4 and 7. Notice ponens. How many of you are understanding this? Let me know right now. Just put a Y. Don't put yes. Just put Y. How many of you are understanding this? Awesome. Wow. I'm slow too, Megan. Don't worry. I'm slower than you are. This is a good group. This is a good group. Notice that this, you're learning how to think. You're learning how to think. Okay, so we saw it in its original form. We cleaned it up a bit when we formalized it. 5 to 7. Well, what confuses you, Jennifer? 5, 6, or 7? Line 5 comes from line 1. If you're confused, just look at the column to the right. It tells you where it comes from. Yeah. So, line 5 says if H is a C, then H is a P. Why does it say that? Why does it? It's right there. It comes from line 1. So you look up at line 1, and then you figure it out. You get the clue right here. Line 6 comes from 5 and 2. So you look at line 5 for a minute, if you have to. Then you look at line 2, and you'll see that it takes you to line 6. Now, is it confusing because the modus ponens has the antecedent in the parentheses with the ampersand? Is that confusing you? Just think of it this way, modus ponens goes like this, right? If I eat ice cream, then I'm happy. I eat ice cream, therefore I'm happy. If I sing, then I dance. I sing, therefore I dance, right? It could also be, if I go to the movies and then I go to dinner, I'm happy. I go to the movies and then I go to dinner, I'm happy. So the first part could have two parts. If I take a shower and I put on cologne, okay. I don't see how the paragraph would help you. Well, yeah, I guess the paragraph helps you because I see the two statements are explicit. Yeah, so line 4 says, if Hitler doesn't believe in private property and Japan is an ally. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so we symbolized it, we proved it, so it's valid. Yeah, are we done? The argument is valid. Are we done? No. What do you do? Right, you still have to check for soundness. Now you gotta look at the assumptions. Are there any assumptions that are controversial? Is there an assumption up there that seems false? No. No. What's wrong with you people? Sorry, I don't know what came over me. Those are all true. Line 1 says if you're a communist, you don't believe in private property. That's true. Line 3 says Japan, Italy, and Germany all fought alike. That's true. Does no one know which assumption here is? 6. 6 is not an assumption. Natalia. Does no one know which assumption here is false? I'm going to have a heart attack. It's 2. Hitler was not a communist. Do they still teach history? Hitler was a Nazi. Line 2 is false. So, it's valid, Natalia. Right, Laura, he was fascist. Natalia, it's valid. You see the big valid there in the center? Line 2 is false. Hitler was a Nazi, a fascist, not a communist. Do they still teach World War II in the high schools? Seriously, do they? Yeah? Okay. So since line 2 is we'll see, sorry, my mistake. Controversial. Because he wasn't. Since line 2 is controversial, the argument is unsound. So the logic was good, but the assumption too is controversial. It's false. Therefore, it is unsound. Are there any other questions? Are there any questions? Very long. Okay.
Okay.
Just do another one. I'll try. I hope this one might work. I'll go slower too if you want. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, let's do another one, Natalia. Okay. This one says all bishops can move only diagonally. Please, not slowly.
You said you can slower to explanation. I said, like, no, it's fine. I just need more primitive scheme, you know. So what you said, it's was complex. So I need some simple, which is actually followed from the book, you know. So if you're not mind, I never got this logic before, you know. So even though I have experience with philosophy and ethics, you know. So if you're not mind.
Well, all I have is this, but you're right. It is complicated. This is difficult. This is challenging. This is difficult, but you can do it. Okay. You can do it. And the Akareya still not getting it. It's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Some of you get it, some of you don't. I want everyone to get it. So let's read this one here. All bishops can move only diagonally. And we all know that Joey is a bishop. If Joey can move only diagonally, then it is not the case that old Joe has access to the entire board. No way. Now, if bishops are as powerful as rooks, then Joe has access to the entire board. Therefore, it is not the case that bishops are as powerful as those formidable towers. This is an argument. We all understand this because it says therefore. When you see the word therefore, Natalia and everyone else, when you see the word therefore, you have an argument. Because therefore indicates conclusion is coming. And if a conclusion is coming, then you know you have an argument. Because conclusions follow premises. Now, I'll ask the same question I asked before. What is the first thing we ask when we come across an argument? Anyone? Natalia, no, you're way off. Right, Nicole. Does the conclusion follow from the premises, right? We've said this a million times, right? Does the conclusion follow from the premise? We don't give a damn if it's true or false, okay? We think about that later. Does the conclusion follow from the premises? What can we do to the original argument to make it clearer, still retaining its original language, so that we can get to work on it? What's the first thing that we do? The Acadia, what's the first thing that we do, Janisha Bar, when we, good, Jennifer, we formalize. The Acadia, are you listening? Good. The first thing we do is we formalize. Listen, my students. Let me show you something. You gotta pay attention too. See if I can find it. Sorry I'm taking so long with this. We saw this today. I asked you today, what's the first thing you do? It's on the PowerPoint, formalize. When we spoke about the Judith Jarvis Thompson argument, no, the standard argument against abortion, what's the first thing we do? We formalize. When we looked at the other argument, what's the first thing we do? We formalize. What's the first question we asked? I said this at the beginning of the course. What's the first question we ask when we come across an argument? I said it at the beginning of the course. You ask, does the conclusion follow? You don't worry about the truth. Exactly. Yes. What did I do? Yeah, this is just a repetition of the so we're gonna formalize. I will give you a few minutes to read this, look at it, enjoy it, and formalize it. I'll give you a few minutes. Egon, that's good. It's close, Egon, but it's not close enough. Okay, so I want everyone to pay very close attention to my very boring words. The first question you ask yourself when you read an argument is, does the conclusion follow from the premises? And one thing you can do to make your job easier, the first thing you should do is to formalize the argument, right? Put it up here. This is something I'm introducing today. I haven't spoken about this before. What do you do when you formalize? When you formalize, you keep it in the original language. You're not going to use P's and Q's and arrows and upside down A's. You're still going to keep the original language, right? Right. In order the premises. Use language consistently. Get rid of unnecessary. I'm writing here for you. I'm writing. Get rid of it. Okay? What's the first thing we do when we come across an argument? We ask, does the conclusion follow from the premises? what can we do after that? Actually, wait, I made a mistake. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. First. Now we're talking. Now, those of you who had the courage, I applaud it, to say, can you go over it, or can you use a different example, or can you make it clear, or whatever it was. Kata said she was having a hard time understanding. I applaud that. But pay attention, and you'll understand it 100%. Not most of it. You'll understand 100%. These are steps you take, right? Step 1, step 2. So I'm going to formalize the argument involving the bishops, right? I'll try anyways. Don't forget that I screw up too. My whole life's a mistake. My mother hated me. Well, not initially. Later she did. Don't tell any. That's too much. You don't need that personal information. Not professional. My students hate me. My mother hated me. My cats hate me. It's okay. I'm not forgiving. Okay, so we're not hating you. Only my students. Oh no, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. My students don't hate me. I hate them. I apologize. I don't know what's wrong. I can't. Everything comes out backwards today. Not proper. Just kidding. Okay, so I feel bad. I won't be able to sleep tonight. Maybe I should embrace evil like the Emperor in Star Wars. He likes it. All right. So, the Acadia, hopefully you can see the Acadia, that this is better than what we saw a few seconds ago. Is that right? It's better. It's better. There's some kind of order. Because we gave a number to the premises. Now, line 2 says, and we all know that Joey is a bishop. We don't need, and we all know that. We don't need that. It's unnecessary language. People say things they don't have to say. Right? So, right here it says, and we all know that Joey is a bishop. Just just say Joey is a bishop, right? Yeah. And again, if you didn't figure this out, that's fine. I'm exposing you to this today. Here it says, no way. Line 3 says, if Joey can move only diagonally, then it is not the case that old Joe has access to the entire board. No way. We don't need no way. This is an emphasis, but it's not going to be a part of the logical structure. So when you formalize an argument, you enumerate the lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you say, well, I don't need these words. And the fewer words I have, the less, the lesser the work will be. So you get rid of it. When you formalize, you got your broom, you know? So I didn't pick my nose. I went outside the nose. We'll get good question, Jennifer. We'll get to that. Let's see. So let's change line 2. Joey is a bishop. When we formalize Yacadia and Natalia and everyone else, we get to the point. We get to the meat and bones. I mean the meat and potatoes, right, of the argument. Okay. Now we enumerate and get rid of unnecessary language. Enumerate and get rid of. But we also want to say the same things in the same way. Right? If I say on line 1 it's raining, then on line 5 I'll rewrite it's raining. I'm not going to say it pours. If in line 1 I say Joey, then I gotta always say Joey. Or line 2, right? So line 3 says old Joe. We're gonna get rid of old Joe and plug in Joey. Say the same thing
La 1:53.
in the same way.
Yo voy.
Right? If you say I'm a murderer on line 1, on line 5 don't say I'm a killer. Say I'm a murderer again. Excuse me. Now the conclusion says, therefore, it is not the case that bishops are as powerful as those formidable towers. What are the formidable towers? Rooks, right? Yeah, rooks. So we called them rooks before, we're going to call them rooks again. had 2 students who were courageous enough to say they didn't understand. Are there more courageous ones? Are there any questions? Any clarification questions? It's pretty straightforward, right? Put a number in front of the sentence. Put a number in front of the sentence. Say the same thing in the same way. If you call him Bill, don't call him Billy later. Call him Bill again. And if you see some language there that is unnecessary, it goes out the door. Oh, you didn't realize that? It's okay. You're not dumb.
Lo voy a poner dentro del carro.
¿Quién, usted? Ah, pero la cosa.
Sí.
Yo pensaba que era que se iba.
Okay, so we're done formalizing. Next thing we do. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's see. I almost made the same mistake of maybe. We're also going to.
¿Tiene cerrado bien los vidrios?
I forgot to. This is my phone. Also, when you formalize, my mistake. Excuse me. My mistake. Line 1 says all bishops can move only diagonally. That's a universal quantification. All dogs are mammals, right? So I'm going to rewrite it. For every x, if x is a bishop, then x can move only diagonally.
Que no le va a quedar la llave adentro.
What's the next step in the evaluation of the art? Anyone? Once we're done formalizing, what do? We symbolize with an S, right? Good.
Me da miedo que esté afuera por los rayos. Póngase
So let me
una
just go like this.
aquí.
It'll be easier for me. Let's go like that. So, if you want to take a picture of the argument formalized, go ahead. And then I'll give you a few seconds. Then I'm going to erase it, and we're going to go to the
¿Quiere
symbolization.
esta? ¿O quiere esta?
Yes, sir.
Right. Number one. Number one.
No pulmón.
For every x, if x is a bishop, then x can move only diagonally across the board. Assumption, which is a universal quantification. Please stop me and interrupt me. Please stop me and interrupt me. You have a question? Joey is a bishop, right? If Joey can move only diagonally, then it is not the case that Joey has access to the entire board. Poor Joey. They have rook envy. Do you think bishops have rook envy? I think they do. Now, if bishops are as powerful as rooks, just put a P there. Then Joey has access to the entire board, right? He does have access. And if, you know what we can do? If they're just as powerful, we'll use the scale again, but we'll make it balanced. Remember the scale from the abortion? And don't forget, these silly arguments, you saw what happened. You saw that we applied them to something very significant. See, now the scales are even. Therefore, it is not the case that bishops are as powerful. It's not a T, it's a scale. It's supposed to be a scale. You know when you go to the market and you weigh your fruit on a scale? Right. Okay. this right? Is anyone following me? Good. Yeah? Good. The miracle that I did it right. Okay, okay, so line 1 says for every x, if x is a bishop, then x can move only diagonally. Number 2 says Joey is a bishop. Number 3 says if Joey can move only diagonally, then it is not the case that he has access to the entire board. Number 4, if rooks and bishops are equally powerful, then Joey can have access to the entire board. Therefore, it is not the case, the conclusion, it is not the case that rooks and bishops are just as powerful. Now, let me repeat this. I don't expect you to know how to do this. I don't expect you to know how to go from the formalization to the symbols. On the final exam, you're not going to be asked to take a formalization and symbolize it in this way. However, I do expect you to be able to see that this tracks the formalization. Can we see this? Then on your own, you'll pick it up on your own. I want you to know that this is an introduction to logic. I want you to know what the steps are. If you can get the gist of it, I'm happy. Okay. We have a universal quantification on line 1. Now, this I have said many times. Everyone should know this. What's the first thing we do when we have a universal quantification in an argument? Yeah, you instantiate. You get rid of it. Whenever you see that upside down A, that's the first line you're going to work on. Whenever you see that universal quantifier, the upside down A, that's the first line you're going to work on. What are you going to do? You're going to instantiate. Line 1 says, for every x, if x is a bishop, then x can move only diagonally. Therefore, we see the arguments about some Joey fellow. Therefore, if Joey is a bishop, then Joey. So what you're doing, you're going to get rid of the x's and plug in the j's. You get rid of the x's, plug in the j's. You plug in whatever you see down below in lowercase. You plug in whatever you see down below in lower. We see j's. Let's plug in j. We get rid of the x's and plug in j. Where did this come from? From line 1. What is it called? The universal instantiation. What's next? What's number 6 going to be? Very good, Jennifer, Gabriela. Yeah, line 6 is going to be, Joey can move only diagonally. 5 and 2 give us line 6. Right, good. Yeah, you got to put that. Well, I just said it. What can I get from 3 and 6? Very good, Matthew. Which rule did we follow? Good. Now, can anyone figure out how to justify the conclusion? Because, Gabriela, if you look at line 3, very good, Matthew. If you look at line 3, the first part is DJ, the antecedent. It's affirmed on line 6. It's P and Q, P, right? The Q here happens to be a not E, but it doesn't matter. Right? This is also modus ponens, Gabriela. Let's see. Oops. Where is it? There it is. H. No, I screwed up. Ignore that. Just a minute. There's also, ignore the first line. It says FH, ignore that. It says number 1, if F then not G. Number 2, F, therefore not G. That's also modus ponens. Do you see it? Okay. Yeah, because the antecedent is the same on line 2 and the consequent is the same in the conclusion. How do you get to back to the board? How do you get to the conclusion? It is not the case that scale is going to be 4 and 7 modus tones. If you study the handout on abortion, in particular, the symbolization or the formalization of the standard argument against abortion, even in the case of rape. If you study the previous argument we went over, what was it about? Communism, Hitler. If you study that, and if you look at this one about chess, you'll get it. You'll definitely get it. If you don't already. Are there any questions? Now, what's the next step after so this is valid, right? What's the next step? When I say what's the next step, good. Yeah, is the argument sound? What do we look at when we try to determine whether or not an argument is sound? Assumptions. Right. Good. Yeah, but Nicole, is the assumptions. And not necessarily true to be acceptable. They could be false, we just don't know, right? They could be false for all we know. But if they seem true, then they're acceptable. Line 2 says Joey is a bishop. That could be the case, right? It could be the case that somebody named a particular bishop on a chessboard Joey. I don't see why not. If that's the case, then the argument is valid. Right? If it is true that somebody did baptize a particular bishop Joey, then the argument is sound. However, excuse me. Give me 1 second while I get back to.
Me gusta la peinita rosada.
Takes forever. Right. The second premise here, Joey is a bishop, could very well be acceptable, but we don't. Well, it's not acceptable because we don't know what they're talking about, right? For all we know, they're talking about Joey Bishop from the Joey Bishop show, right? If that's the case, then the argument is absurd. Are there any questions? Is unsound. Are there any questions? I have a few minutes left. So, I wanted to show you before I move on to Immanuel Kant. I wonder if you can see this. Yeah, you can see that, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah? That's one of them. Gabriel, I can't see it. What about now? You see the kitten? There are 4 of these. I feed them every day, and it's costing me a lot of money. They're down the street. Can you see that? There's all 4 of them. There's not a good picture because there's 4 of them in the picture, so it's hard to. Do you see them there? So, yeah, they're beautiful. So Friday, I'm going to take them. Are they feral? They're 7 weeks old. They're whatever you want them to be. They're 7 weeks old. They are whatever you want them to be. Friday, I'm going to take them to the Humane Society. They tell me it's a no-kill Humane Society. But if somebody wants them, let me know by Thursday. They're free, and there they are. Or I'll eat them. You know, I've been feeding them, so I can eat them. That's why I feed them. Let's see. No, but seriously, if you know of anyone who's interested, okay. I have a few. Thank you, Gabriela. Please, I have a few minutes left to bore you with. I will go back to ethics. Sure. Yeah, I can do that. If you want, you can put your phone number in the not in the chat for everyone, but there's like a private way you can do it. You know what I mean? I'll send it to you. I won't call you to talk about logic, I promise. See the chat section. Everyone. There it is. So I'm gonna call you now, but just don't pick it up. I'm just calling. Oh, okay, I got all these phone numbers. Okay, good. I'll take them down later. And by the way, if you take these kittens, if you take them, and then you don't want them, okay, Megan, and then you don't want them, bring them back. Don't release them to the wild. They can't survive. They're with their mother now. They can survive on their own now. But if you don't want them, return them to me, okay? And I'll find someone, or give them to somebody else. But don't release them. Don't leave them out on the street. They can't survive. Yeah, they're useless. That's the worst thing you can do. Yeah. Okay, I see a lot of phone numbers. Good. They're better off in a shelter, but maybe one of my students wants a kid. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to talk briefly about, we're going to start talking about Immanuel Kant. So we've gone over many of the important moral philosophies. We haven't spoken yet about Kant. We've gone over David Hume's ideas, utilitarianism, virtue ethics, and now we'll go over Immanuel Kant, right? But let me tell you a few things, first of all, about the man, right? Because he has a pretty interesting life. First of all, Kant was born in what year? Let me see. I'm gonna say around 1723. Yeah, circa means around. Yeah, I think I'm close. And he was born in Kennisburg. Sorry. Königsberg used to be a city in Prussia. Prussia doesn't exist anymore. It's a kingdom that doesn't exist anymore. Ethnically, these people were German, right? So today we don't say Kant the Prussian. We say Kant the German philosopher, right? And Kant is the most important philosopher since Aristotle. So you got Aristotle, who's really important, right? For around 2,000 years or so. Influential in just about every field. Don't forget that Aristotle also was the founder of many of those fields, a philosopher and a scientist. You know the story. Kant is the next towering. Kant is the next towering figure. Yeah, he's the most important philosopher since Aristotle, and no one has surpassed him. No one today surpasses him in importance or in imagination. Kant was influenced by Hume, David Hume. Don't forget, Hume influenced a lot of people, among them Immanuel Kant. However, Kant argues against Hume. You see, Kant was very tired of German philosophy, of his own people's philosophy. He called German philosophers dogmatic, unimaginative, asleep at the wheel, and boring, right? And he famously says that when he reads, Kant famously says that when he reads David Hume, he himself, Kant, is awake from his dogmatic slumbers. So he sees the light when he reads Hume. But again, he's going to argue against Hume. Lots of people are inspired by certain people, and yet they argue against them. It's very very common in philosophy. So if Hume said potato, Kant said potato, right? However, Kant would not have said potato had Hume not said potato, because again, Hume inspired Kant. We're gonna go over Kant's moral philosophy, which is very important. I recommend that you do not go to YouTube for your education. There's a guy on there talking about Kant. This guy's got a big beard. Everything he says is false. He seems knowledgeable because of the big beard, lots of books behind him. Ignore that guy with the big beard and with all the books behind him on YouTube when it comes to the moral philosophy of Kant. But back to Kant, the man. Kant was also an astronomer. He was a philosopher and an astronomer. He was a mathematician, but not an important mathematician. An important astronomer, however. Kant was a proponent of the nebular hypothesis. It was the Big Bang theory of the time, right? Which is pretty similar to the Big Bang theory today. And some of the things that they were saying, those who proposed the nebular hypothesis, appear to be true of star systems today. Not necessarily the universe as a whole, but of stellar systems. According to the nebular hypothesis proposed by Kant, the universe was initially a cloud. The universe was initially a cloud. It turns out that lots of solar systems were initially clouds. So he was close. Maybe he wasn't right about the entire universe, but maybe he was onto something. One thing though, Kant is not the guy who came up with the nebular hypothesis. It was a Frenchman by the name of Laplace. But Kant made significant contributions to astronomy. those of you who are paying attention might recall that according to Hume, the philosopher who wrote about sympathy, you'll recall that according to Hume, we have no reason to believe in causal relations. Right? Cause and effect. Our beliefs in cause and effect are just based on blind experience of repetitions and the feeling that you get. You see A and then B, you see A and then B, you see A and then B, and then finally you have the impression A causes B, says Hume, but there's no reasoning going on, there's no understanding, right? Therefore, science, the foundations of science are irrational. However, do science, right? Keep at it. Don't throw out those science books. Just be careful. Right? Just be careful with science because it's not as sturdy, as reliable as, for example, mathematics. Kant did not like this. Kant did not like this. As a scientist, as an astronomer, Kant did not like to be told, hey, we have no reason to believe in cause and effect. So Kant is going to try to show that science can be knowledge.
Nicolás ni siquiera ha salido.
See, this happens a lot in philosophy. You have philosophers claiming or showing that there are problems with science, intimating it's not really knowledge, though we need it. And then you have other philosophers trying to say, wait a minute, science is knowledge. Usually these philosophers are also scientists, right? Of course. A case in point, Aristotle and Immanuel Kant and René Descartes. René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, also a scientist and mathematician. Descartes gave us the coordinate plane in geometry, the x and y axis, among a million other things. Without Descartes, there's no calculus. It's impossible. So, yes, Kant is awakened by Hume. But Kant is an astronomer, a scientist who does not want to accept, right, what Hume is saying about our beliefs in causal relations. Now, let us turn to moral philosophy. You'll recall that according to Hume, sympathy is a psychological mechanism whereby you can feel other people's feelings, so to speak, and this moves you to act morally. Feelings are fundamental in Hume's philosophy, not only in moral philosophy, but in philosophy of science. Kant is not too happy with this either. What Kant is going to try to do is to show that the foundations of morality are rational. They are rational. So yes, he's inspired by Hume, but everything Hume says, Kant says the opposite. In every university in the West, or what's left of Western civilization, in every university in the West, whether it's in Canada, Brazil, Chile, England, Portugal, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, there's a course just on Kant. That's how important he is. There are very few philosophers who have their own course. That's a requirement. One of them is Kant, another one is Plato, another one is Aristotle. So we're talking at a very high level of importance here. Does this mean the guy is right about everything? Hell no. Does this mean you have to agree with him? No, please. Don't agree with anyone. But understand. Understand. Now, oops. Kant's moral philosophy called it the ontology, and I'll start talking about this on Thursday. What the hell is deontology? Deontology is deontology means etymologically an account of what must be done. Deon comes from the ancient Greek, one must. Deon means one must. One should, right? It's a neuter participle. And logos means many things, but here it means account. So in Immanuel Kant's philosophy, we're going to get an account of what we must do since we are rational. Okay? That's why it's called deontological. Kant will give us an account, a logos, of what we must, of what one must there do on the grounds that we are rational. Very different from Hume. Hume says the moral action involves feelings. No. The impetus of the moral action is a feeling. No, says Kant. Feelings have nothing to do with it. Rationality does, right? And rationality is going to tell us what we must do. I will continue to bore you on Thursday. Try to find a home for these kittens. It's your moral obligation. It's what you must do if you're rational.
Pictures so I can show everybody. My sister might want one.
Wonderful. That's great. I'll do that right now.